Well, we were just sitting there chatting like we always do. We were just laughing, talking about her schoolwork. I was talking about my schoolwork. We both had tests coming up, so we were just relating to each other in that manner that we always do every day.
Okay, let's go. Move it along.
Anyway, all of a sudden, I heard, after an hour of talking to her on the phone, I overheard him say, "Let's fight. Let's do this without the cops." And I was like...
You heard him say, "Let's fight.
Let's do this without the cops. We could fight right now. We could
Just
fight
a second.
right...
I want to be very clear, because Whitney is taking, let's do this without...
The police.
The police. That you remember.
That I remember.
Don't speak. Let's do this without the police. And what's the next thing you heard him say?
They just started arguing, so...
Just a second. Would you go back, Whitney, please, and tell me what the plaintiff said? She said that he said two things.
Yes, let's fight. Let's do this without the cops.
Let's fight.
Saying that to my sister.
Shh. Let's fight. Let's do this without the cops. Which one was it? You said, let's do this without the police. That's one. Or let's fight. Let's do this without the cops. Which one did you hear?
I overheard him say both things to my sister, and I just hung up after that.
What both things?
He said, I didn't have no idea he was there. I said, "Cinda, who's that?" She said, "Dwight." I said, why, what's going on? And then I just hung. She was
What's
like, "Oh,
going on?"
Yeah, and I just hung up. I said, "Okay, I'm just gonna hang up."
Why?
Because they was husband and wife. Maybe it was just something they was just going through. I didn't know.
Now, just a second. Let me explain something to you. I'm beginning to suspect what you're telling me is a whole lot of who shot John. You're on the phone with your sister. You're talking about tests like you're talking about every day, blah, 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 blah. Then you hear something that would cause me concern. You hear, let's fight. Let's do this without the police. And according to you, what you said to me was, so I just hung up.
I said, "Cinda, I'm gonna hang up and I'm gonna call you back." She was like, "Oh, I'm gonna handle this."
Just a second. Don't speak. Yes. Let's go through it again, because now we're getting a different story. Let's do this. Let's do this without the cops. And then, what did you say to her, and what did she say to you?
I asked her, "Who was that in the background?"
You said, "Who was that in the background?"
And she said, "Dwight." I said, "Oh, I thought he didn't be there anymore."
Okay.
And so she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna handle it. I'm gonna just call you back." So I said, "Okay."
Okay. She said, "Oh, I'm gonna handle it. I'll call you back." So you didn't just hang up. Just a second. You didn't just hang up.
No, I didn't.
You had a continued conversation.
I didn't really want to hang up, but I hung up because she told me.
You didn't just hang up. You had a conversation with your sister, and your sister said, "I'm going to handle it." That's what you said she said to you.
Absolutely. After 20 minutes, I called. So I felt like they got into a fight. Why I felt that way, because
I don't care why
he had her arrested.
Just a second. I don't care why you felt that way.
Yeah.
I don't care what you felt that way.
Because he got her arrested on October 27th, 2020 for assault. I had no idea. I was calling her.
So we had her arrested in October for domestic violence.
Yes, 2020.
And then so a month before, he had her arrested for domestic violence. What happened to that case? Do you know, Miss Gaines? Do you know? The answer is yes or no.
No.
But you know he had her arrested. Okay, so now we're in November. Your sister has clearly allowed him back into the house, right? She didn't say, "It's Dwight, he doesn't belong here, I'm going to call the police," because according to you, she's having a pleasant conversation with you. And he's talking, "Who is that Dwight? Oh, he's here." So you went to your sister's house. Mm-hmm. You didn't call the police because you were worried. You went over to your sister's house. Now I want you to tell me exactly what happened. Be careful, because I've been doing this for 50 years. Do you understand?
Yes.
What you're about to tell me, I've heard 100 times, all different kinds of versions, but certain things make sense and certain things don't. Do you understand? So now I'm going to...
I thought the police would be there by the time I got there because my sister told me...
I don't care what you thought. She told you what?
She told me she was going to go to jail and I just wanted
just a minute. We're getting a lot more into this conversation now. Hold on. First we started with I hung up. And then you said, my sister says to me, when did she
When I called back, she said...
Just a second. So you called back and you got her on the phone.
I said,
okay.
If I've learned anything while watching Judge Judy for many a times, I've watched lots of episodes. If I've learned anything, if you're going to give testimony especially as a plaintiff, and your testimony is changing in the small details, Judge Judy's not going to really take you seriously or even really believe your testimony. Now, they give written statements before the case goes on, and they share exactly what their statement is. And sometimes those statements are a little bit more clear-headed. They're not under the pressure. They're not speaking directly to Judge Judy herself. And so maybe those details are a little bit more fleshed out. But when they're sharing the testimony, I find it to be very frustrating when she's kind of skipping over some details that are probably really important to the whole case. And in this situation, she doesn't really give much other than Dwight was there and I hung up. And then all of a sudden she adds more to the story. And so I feel like in this situation, she really needs to learn how to give her testimony, give the details, and don't keep anything from the testimony, because every detail matters. And if you don't, then it sounds and it comes off like you're hiding something. So let's keep watching to hear the story. I feel like there's more to this and somebody's lying.
So you waited 20 minutes and you called her back.
Yes.
And you did, in fact, get her on the phone.
Yes, and that's...
Just a second. Now, I want you to go back to what she told me 4 minutes ago with, I called.
I did.
And she didn't answer.
She did not answer.
After 20 minutes, I stay home. After 20 minutes, I called. I felt they got into a fight. Why I felt that way? Because he had her arrested. I was just scared.
You
for
called
her.
and called and called and called. So now you called.
Halfway there, she answered the phone.
You called and she answered.
Yes.
Now I want you to tell me about that conversation before you went over there. I said to her, and she said to me, let's go.
I'm going to jail. He called. And she said, well, I'm going to jail now because he called the cops. And then I said, oh, okay, well, because I just felt like she was going to go to jail because she got arrested.
I don't care what you felt.
Anyway, I was only going to get my nephew.
You called her and she said, I'm going to go to jail.
She said he called the cops, so I think
he called the cops. Because he had a restraining order against her.
Protective order.
Right. And clearly something happened in that 20 minutes between the time you were talking about your tests and the time you got her back on the phone that suggested to you that something had transpired when she said, now I'm going to go to jail. So you went over there because you knew about the protective order because you knew she had gotten arrested in October. So now you go over there to do what?
To grab my nephew, because last time I went, when she couldn't go back to her home that he moved in with her, he didn't even feed my nephew. And that's what I was afraid of.
Just a second. Is that their child?
No.
You went over there to get your nephew.
Yeah.
Now, what happened when you got there?
When I got
slowly, because right now you see, it doesn't go well.
I know.
You understand?
Understood.
Okay. So now you go over there.
When I got to their home, the defendant was standing outside. I finally pulled up. I saw no cops. So I asked him, why you keep calling the cops on my sister? That's when he took it upon himself to hit me in my face, knock me off the curb, because I guess it needed to fit his narrative. Come to find out, he called the cops and told the cops that my sister called me over there to fight him. Why would I fight for my sister? I shouldn't have went over there, but I did because I was worried about my nephew. She told me to. She asked me to get him the last time. She was like, can you go to the house and grab my nephew?
You left that out 5 minutes ago.
Sorry, because it was so much, and it had been so long ago.
Well, that's why you're supposed to bring a case as soon as you can after the event. The reason I assume you didn't is because COVID struck and they didn't dismiss both of your cases until recently. Yeah. So neither one of you could have come to civil court. I assume that that's why you waited 2 years. I really don't care. Now, that's what you say happened, that you came over there and got out of the car and calmly said to him, why do you keep calling the cops on my sister?
Yes.
That's what you remember you said to him?
Yes.
Calmly. Why do
really
you?
calmly, really agitated because I was home doing my own thing, you know, and it was
Well, I
just,
want you to tell me what happened. You got out of the car. Clearly, you're bigger than he is.
Exactly.
Clearly, you're bigger than he is. So is your sister. You got out of the car, and now you're agitated. So you didn't just ask him. You said, why do you keep calling the cops on my sister? And he punched you.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you're...
And knocked me off the curb. I was stuck under the car where he proceeded to keep pounding on me in my head. And I almost lost consciousness, which I did lose consciousness. My hands was all cut up. I have proof from trying to cover the blows, but I had nowhere to move because of...
Just a second. What part of your hand was all cut up?
Both of my hands, because I was trying to hold it, because I was on the concrete.
Just a second. Your knuckles on both hands were cut up. Mm-hmm. That's not a defensive wound.
Those are?
No. That's not. No, dear. That's not a defensive wound. This is a defensive wound. This is from hitting somebody.
But I'm trying to grab my hoodie down so he could stop punching me in my face. So that's what was happening because I was trying to.
I still don't understand why you got.
I don't know how.
I don't know. I don't know either. I don't know whether you're going to show me. I'm going to look at all your proof. I'm just examining you first since there are cross complaints here. You're trying to speak over me.
Sorry.
Clearly, you're not intimidated by your surroundings.
So I actually disagree with Judge Judy's statement here because it says a lot about how she feels about the plaintiff in the situation. She's claiming that she had defensive wounds where she's trying to pull her hoodie down, she's trying to block herself, and just because it's the side of her hand where she could use for punching, suddenly that's not a defensive wound. Now, I understand in Judge Judy's sense that she's like, well, you could have hit somebody, and the only way you can hit somebody is through that brute force of your knuckles, and if you have wounds there, then it most likely was that you were offensively on this situation. But I do believe that there's a chance that you could still have defensive wounds on other sides of your hands, so I don't necessarily buy that narrative so far. But let's keep watching.
That's her version of the events. She came over to the house and she asked you why you keep calling the cops on my sister. And you punched her and kept punching her until she almost lost consciousness. Now, you want to tell me your version of these events?
Okay.
How long, by the way, had you been in the apartment with her sister?
6 or 7 years.
No. You had her arrested in October. So clearly she was arrested and she was out of the house. Is it your house or her house?
Her house. She wasn't out the house.
So she was arrested and you were both still living in the house together?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Since October?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you were there and she was there?
Same way, Your Honor.
Same way?
Yes.
She was released by the police and you were there, she was there, and her son?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that correct?
Yes, it's a partial.
Judge, don't speak.
Okay.
So when you said, what's Dwight doing there, you clearly didn't know that they were still living together.
No.
Good. So now you tell me your version of the events of November 8th, 2020. Tell me what happened with...
Lucinda was keep coming at me.
How did she keep coming at you?
Like coming up in my face, like she want to fight with me. And I never want to fight at all.
That is not true.
If you say one more word, I'm going to throw you out. Do you understand?
That wasn't me, that was her.
Oh, you're easy. You're going to be gone. Did you call the police?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, did you call the police before Miss Gaines got there?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so now you called the police, and clearly she heard it.
Yes, Your Honor.
And she said to you, I'm going to get arrested. That's what you said.
Because it was a...
Did you say something? So you called the police and you went outside.
I went outside first before I called the police.
You went outside and called the police from outside?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead.
When I called the police, I stepped down to the sidewalk and I was there waiting for the police to come. I heard a car speed come around, hear her yelling, I hope you're not calling the cops. I said, of course I'm calling the cops. She pulled over to the side and come up towards me, ready to fight with me. I never want to fight. I turned my head around. She was already there in front of me, sizing me up, and I just make a mistake and look around. And by the time I made that mistake and look around, she knocked me over.
And?
I saw her about to hit me again. When I hit her, she fall, and I ran off, try to escape. She get back up and running me down. I couldn't run no more because I was going towards the hospital direction where I was going. When she caught up with me, the cops turned up.
Okay. May I see the police report, please?
I have one.
Well, it's practically impossible to determine which one of you instigated the physical part of this altercation. Each of you claimed that the other threw the first blow. Listen carefully to what I'm saying. That's what she says, and you said that she hit you first. So it's impossible to determine who hit who first. However, the police report is very telling. It says that when the police arrived, they found you on Kensington Street. And you told the police, you're Lucretia,
Yes.
said Francis, that would be him, began to walk down Kensington Street. So the fight had begun, and he got up and started to walk away towards Chapel Street, which is consistent with what he said. And Lucretia said she ran after Francis and began fighting with him until the police arrived. That's what the police report says.
I can show you. I couldn't even run. I had torn meniscus.
Just a second.
There's no way.
I'm telling you what the police wrote in their report that you told them. And it's totally consistent with what he said, that he was trying to walk away.
I was running.
After he beat me up.
Listen to me. You went over there furious.
I wasn't furious.
Oh, yeah.
You wanna shove some-
Just a second. You went over there furious.
Absolutely not.
Your Honor,
Absolutely not.
Can I tell my story, please?
Can you tell your story?
Yes, please.
Oh, be my pleasure. I got a couple of questions to ask you as long as you want to testify. Okay. There is no indication here from you to the police or any other authority that he ever put his hands on you. What you complain about him is that he's disrespectful, he taunts you, he says nasty things to you,
Yes.
he calls you names.
Yes.
In response to that, you assault him.
No, I don't, ma'am.
Oh.
Miss-
Yes, sir.
It just
He had me falsely arrested. Yes, he's small in stature, but I don't know how he keep manipulating the system. This man is dangerous.
You have to understand something. You told the police that he doesn't.
We never had a physical altercation. That's why I don't know where he's getting these things from. It's like once he found out we were going to divorce, he didn't want to leave the house. So that's why he kept having to try to put a case on me.
All may be true.
Yes.
There is no indication here, as a matter of fact, quite the contrary, that he ever put his hands on you.
He never put his hands on me, and I never placed a hand on him.
Your sister did. Now you can sit down.
Go.
Can I just tell you how we even got here?
No.
All I want to say.
No, I'm just telling
Sorry.
you. I don't care how you got here. This happened 2.5, 3 years ago. And the reason that you're here is because of an incident that had in its beginnings you going to a place where you had no right to be.
Can I please show you the medical reports? Because there's no way I ran down the street.
Just a second. I'm going to read what you told the police.
That was-
After a brief verbal altercation, Francis punched her in the face. They both began fighting in the middle of the street. Francis then began to walk down Kensington Street towards Chapel Street. Lucretia said she ran after Francis and began fighting with him until the police arrived. Okay, your case is dismissed.
right.
Now, you have any medical records of your injuries?
Yes,
I'd
Your
like
Honor.
to see them.
I have scar to it.
Just a second, I'd like to see them.
I'm telling you, I did not run after him. How can I run? How can I run after him if my knee, a torn meniscus?
Do you want me to play the tape of you walking through the door into the courtroom? Yes, you did.
I could walk, yeah, but I'm still
right,
in
you
pain
did.
for the rest of
I
my
can
life.
play the tape back
I have
for you
to
if
get
you like.
surgery, Your Honor.
Not only is the case going to be dismissed, but because I see you can't control yourself. Even in a courtroom, you can't control yourself. I'm hearing his case now. He's got a cross complaint. And as far as I'm concerned, you were the aggressor. You went there
I did.
to a potentially aggressive situation by yourself.
Your
by
Honor,
yourself.
She have something in her hand too. I never see what it was, but I know she threw it away.
Do you think I need your help?
Okay.
Forget it. Telling you, this man is dangerous. You will see he'll be arrested again.
See what I mean? You can't control yourself. You want me to believe that you got out of the car and calmly said, "Why are you calling the police on my sister?" Somebody who can't control themselves in a courtroom. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim in the amount of $5,000. Your claim is dismissed.
All right, thanks.
Court is adjourned.
I'm just sad about the whole situation because I feel like I should have won this case.
Everything is in facts, and that's how it happened. It was the truth.
I just figured she was going to jail, so I just wanted to get my nephew and leave.
I want to be a good parent.
It goes on. He's manipulating the system, and it shows.
Well, I don't think she assumed that this was going to be the verdict for herself, as the plaintiff was there, pleading her case. But I want to ask some questions here to you all, because I feel like in this situation, it was a pretty big mess, but I feel like the plaintiff is not being honest. She's not being honest. She's somewhat lying a little bit about what exactly happened in this case. I do believe that when she showed up, she was a lot more upset and a little bit more heated than she's letting on. She's kind of making it sound like she showed up and she was like, "I'm here to get my nephew. I'm no problem. Why'd you call the cops?" And even though she says she's a torn meniscus, you can still move very quickly. And when you have adrenaline going on in your body, sometimes when you have wounds and injuries, suddenly those things go away for a little bit because you're so adrenalized that you just go after him. So I do believe that it's possible that he could have been trying to get away from her and she was running. I do believe that could be the case. So I feel like this case is pretty fair, but I also believe that Judge Judy was a little bit annoyed with the case and couldn't stand the fact that she kept interrupting over and over again. And I do agree that if you can't control yourself in the courtroom and you can't be willing to listen, speak when you're allowed to speak, then you're not going to have a good case and the judge is going to be annoyed with you. And what makes you think that the judge is going to give you any sort of favors? So I want to know, do you guys agree with this judgment? Do you think that what they're saying is true, that he's a dangerous man? I want to know your thoughts on this, so leave your comments down below.